it's good to have you with me this afternoon.
It's great to see you, Bart.
Well, it's good that you're here and my co-facilitator there in Northeast RLF. What's it like being a facilitator as opposed to having gone through the program that you did back in 2009?
It's actually really important to me that this experience that people are going through is meaningful to them. RLF for me was so important to understand who I am and what my values are and where I want to work and how I want to live. And so to try and make sure that you and I are creating that same opportunity for people to have that thoughtful, reflective time. I spend a lot of time preparing for each session to make sure I've reread the books. So some of the books I'm now reading for the 5th time, and I get something different out of them every single time. But I want to make sure that I've got a grasp of the materials, and yet, as a facilitator, it's not ours to answer if someone asks a question. So you may provide some context, but then throw the question back at the class and ask people what they might think or how they might respond. So there's a lot of thought that goes into how you create that environment, and that's just really important to me to make sure that you and I continue along that same path.
How did you get involved with RLF in the beginning?
Well,
Want to share that?
Yes. I started going to SIM meetings, and it's a big group to walk into the room. There's 80 people that you don't know, and I ran into a woman by the name of Pat Randall, and she was great at introducing me to people. So she introduced me to you, she introduced me to everybody. She knows absolutely everybody at every single SIM meeting. And so I knew when I walked into the room, I could at least find her and I would be safe. And in talking to you, you articulated the value of the class. Clearly you thought it would be useful to me, and I think you talked to me for probably 3 or 4 years, constantly, about the value of the class. And I sent someone the year before I went, saw what he learned, saw what was happening in his life, and decided that work was getting a little bit crazy and it was the right time for me to do a little investment in myself. So I self-sponsored into RLF, and it really was just a huge life-changing event for me. So that was kind of my journey into RLF. And in sitting in the classroom, I used to watch you and Kevin Ryan, who was your co-facilitator at the time, and just marvel at how you could work the room, and thought what a great retirement job that would be. I just, you're learning new things, you're interacting with people all the time. It kept you engaged, it kept you, I just thought it was a great retirement gig. And so I thought maybe someday that would be something I could do. And I bumped into you at a meeting, and you asked me if I wanted to become a facilitator. And I was like, oh, I'm not retired. I just don't know. And it was, again, a lot of thoughtful conversation with you, with my family, with my boss. And so that was how I got involved in becoming a facilitator, as I got to be your apprentice for a year, which was a great, great year.
What's the difference between being a participant versus a facilitator? How do you see the difference?
Well, again, I think what you and I need to do as facilitators is create a context for the experience for them. So we work very hard at making sure we have an agenda that makes sense, that there's topics and things that hang together as a theme, that we've allotted the right amount of time, the right amount of, this is going to be a conversation that's going to be an exercise maybe that gets them up and moving, and so we want to do that after lunch where they might have that postprandial sleepy time. So, we work very hard to create that context. And as a participant, you don't really realize the work that goes into that day, but you certainly get out of that day what you need to. So the difference in being a facilitator is more, you're still learning, you're still reading the books, you're still getting something out of the conversation, but you're also trying to read the room and make sure all the right things are happening. People are engaged and the conversations are flowing.
Any tough problems solved since you've been there?
Meaning tough problems with
The people?
the people? There's almost always an epiphany that happens every session. So someone will have, as you said earlier, the light bulb might go off for them. They put some pieces together, or they see something in a way they hadn't really seen it before. And we've had some folks like have those epiphanies. Sometimes those epiphanies include laughter. Sometimes those epiphanies include tears. But they've realized that they need to maybe adjust their priorities or they are not living the values that really mean something to them. And so to, again, allow them to have those conversations and support them and listen, because they need to figure out what's right for them. It's not for you or I to tell them what's the right answer, but ask some probing questions, listen to what they're saying, and help maybe deepen what they're thinking about. So I think that's really, for me, the joy of being a facilitator.
Any surprises along the way, either as a participant or as a facilitator?
Well, as a participant, I thought I was going to a leadership class. So I thought, I'll learn on presentations, I'll learn, concrete skills. And I really didn't think walking into it that it would be as much about who I am and what matters to me and how that then allows me to live into my strengths at work. And so that to me was a bit of a surprise. And as a facilitator, the amount of effort that goes into each session was a little bit of a surprise, because when the sessions are happening, they are somewhat effortless. They flow. There's just something that happens during the session that the topics go from topic to topic and the conversations flow throughout the day. But the work, again, that goes into making that happen was quite a bit more than I had anticipated. So, yeah, balancing that with a full-time job is fun.
Yeah, you're still working.
Yes.
This
yes,
is
I
not
am.
your retirement job.
Not yet. It will be, though. I have great faith. I have great faith. But, the point is that the work that we're doing and the lessons that I'm still learning during the forum. So when we have the CIOs come in and speak, I'm listening to them. There's questions that I have for them. And I got a new role at work recently, and I remember one of our CIOs who comes from Paul Amarillo, who comes and talks to us, and he has this exercise that he calls I Declare. So when he gets a new team, he takes them through his value system. He takes them through how he likes to work, what drives him bananas. I'm sure he says that a little bit differently. And so with this new team, I actually put together a presentation. It was sort of like Margot Carleton 101, but so I'm still taking what's coming out of the RLF and applying it at work. So it's been quite helpful, and we continue to learn. I'm sure you do too, right?
Yes, it does. Yes, it does. What were you surprised at as a facilitator? Did you understand what it takes to be one?
No, I really didn't. Again, I think the amount of preparation and thought that goes into the sessions, and we do our life stories. So we spend an hour, just like a guest speaker comes in, and take them through our careers. And that is a lot harder than you think. And to think that you're going to talk to anybody for an hour about yourself is
A little different.
It's a little different, and what you share and what you choose not to share. There's certainly, we don't share everything, and trying to find the right context for the folks in the room is very important.
What do you think it takes to fill the class from a marketing point of view?
It's a relationship that fills the class. I mean, I think people come to class, they know you, they know the reputation of the class. We need to make sure that we're continuing to provide a quality training, and not really a training experience, a development experience. Training is, the how-tos, but a development experience is really where people are doing more of the reflective thought process around taking the content from the books, taking the content from the topics, and putting it together in a way that works in their, with their value system. So we need to make sure that RLF continues along with a quality product, quality speakers, and a really nice, we get a very diverse group of people in the room, which adds to the experience for everybody in the room.
Where does one go, do you think, after being a graduate from RLF?
RLF used to have something called LDR, which was a great part 2. They now have the executive RLF, the ERLF, and that's held, it's a 4-session RLF experience where instead of reading the volume of books that we read in RLF, ERLF, executive RLF, takes those books and and goes far deeper into the context of the books and helps try and build executive presence. It really, we're looking at mid-level market, mid-tier IT professionals, and the ERLF is really looking at someone who is just about a CIO or a CIO and making them more comfortable speaking with the board and having more of that executive presence that they need in that role.
Margot, can you share with us how the RLF has changed your personal life or your professional life?
Or both, because it's hard to separate the two with the skills that we learn. So when I went through RLF, we all think we're a pretty nice person, but I found that maybe I wasn't as good at listening. And then we read The Zen of Listening, and that book kind of made me a little bit, I had kind of a negative response to it. But rereading it, I realized why I was kind of bucking it. I wasn't doing a good job of listening, and it didn't make me feel good to realize that. A little more reflection, a little more time. But I do feel like going through RLF helps me be a better spouse, a better friend, a better aunt, a better person, a better leader. And the folks at work know that I have a very strong moral compass, that my sense of what's right and wrong is, I'm clear about it. And when something isn't going well, I'm going to try and take the appropriate moral, ethical, and have integrity around my decisions. And that I'm very comfortable explaining those and having those conversations, which prior to RLF, I might have been a little more wishy-washy. And I'm not saying I'm rigid, but I have an opinion, I'm comfortable explaining it, and I'm comfortable having the discussion. And then I can, if I need to change my decision, I can understand why I've done that. So I have a better foundation
Seems like
there.
You're more decisive.
Yes.
You listen, but you're also more decisive.
Yeah. In a
Sounds good.
very fair, I'm gathering the data before it's not a knee-jerk response.
Right.
It's a thoughtful response. And I think RLF has really helped me develop as a better leader at work and a better person outside of work.
So from that book, you can also get into the other guy's movie, is that the phrase?
Yes, I can. Yes, I can. And that phrase drove me nuts in the book, but now I understand it better. So
Good.
thank you very much.
Thanks, Margot.